I feel completely humbled and honored that I have the privilege of introducing our next keynote. It was a complete miracle, I have to tell you, when we were scheduling our lineup of speakers. Darlene and us, we were putting our list together like our wish list, our dream team of folks who wanted to come to the summit. And everybody was saying, yes, I'd love to be in Anchorage in February. I'd love to come, which was a surprise to us, but they all have come. Luckily, these two women haven't had to travel too far, but it's my complete honor, as I was saying, to introduce Agatha John-Shields and her daughter, Piiyuuk Shields. Agatha was my Yupik teacher growing up in Bethel. She has continued to inspire me in my journey. It just feels like every time I'm with her again, like there's that connection that we had. And I know you've inspired so many of the youth growing up. Growing up in Bethel, Yupik was taught in our public education. That was something that, native or not, all of our students were given Yupik names. Like Colin's Yupik name is Atauchik, it means number one. So some of us had a fun time of choosing our own names. Some of our Yupik teachers named us if our family hadn't already given us names. But it was an honor to grow up being able to learn my language in our school system. And I think that Agatha is on her journey of making sure that's a reality for our students all over Alaska, that we have the ability to learn our languages in our schools, and so we don't have to only take German or Spanish or Russian. There's so many languages spoken all throughout our communities, and it's a right of ours to be able to learn our language, as we've heard a little bit about today. So without further ado, I want to thank you so much, Qoyana, for being here. I just can't wait to hear your story, your speech, and it's awesome to have your daughter here as well. So Qoyana.
We're going to be starting off with a dance that I used to hear that my grandmother used to sing when she wanted my attention before she talked to me. Yeah, Qoyana, it helps to get us comfortable knowing that our ancestors are with us when we're singing and dancing. So before we get started, I want to introduce my mom. That's my mom, Anguyaluk, Martina John. And we would also like to introduce my older sister, Teresa John, as well as my husband, Sam. And there's Amber, our younger girl, and she's holding our dad. That's Kangrilnguq. It'll be a year in March since he passed on. So we also have Gabe, and then my Alanka Mary also is here. And also Qoyana, it's pretty humbling to be here. When we were asked to speak here, we felt like little kids. Why us? Because there are a lot of good stories here. So we're very glad and honored to be here, especially thinking about our dad, Paul John. And that's the main reason why we said yes, so we could tell his story as well, that we have learned. Oh, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Panigkaq. Panigkaq is my Yupik name. And I'm named after my grandmother's first cousin, who's originally from Kangrilnguq, Agatha.
Huinga Piiyuuk. My Yupik name is Piiyuuk. I'm named after my mom's mom's mom. So my amma, my great grandma. Oh, and my English name is Olivia. I'm named after my dad's mom. Yeah, so I've got the best of both worlds.
So when we were asked to be here, when my mom came, I told my sister Teresa, "Aling takakikpa." I'm very humbled, and so she reminded me that Dad always told us, "You are selected for a reason." Our Creator chooses people when it's time. So I guess it's our time to tell our story. So Juanija.
Before we started, I just wanted to say, how great it is to be here. How great it is that we've made it to this point in time where we don't have to fight, no more wars, we can be together. I could be here with my Athabascan sisters and brothers, my Inupiaq sisters and brothers, all together as one people. I just want to celebrate that. And I just want to, say that, we are the type of people to recognize what has happened and let go. And so we have such great power of understanding and I've heard a lot of people say we put things under the rug, we push it away, but really what I feel like what we are doing is we're recognizing it and letting it go.
So the other thing that I want to pass on is we are all given a language and culture, all of us, by our Creator. And as we go through this journey of education, our dad always reminded us there's a reason why we are given our own language, and it's something that we have to preserve and continue to pass on to our future generation. So that I think is very important to share. And then also, the other thing that I want to share is the journey that we have as a family, the reason why we are here. So you heard us singing and dancing. We grew up Yugtun. We grew up speaking our language. Only people that we saw were Yupik people, mostly, with an exception of the teachers. So in our community of Toksook Bay, we were very proud of our language and culture. And then I went to college. My goal was to become a teacher in a village, to be a high school teacher. And then I met my husband. That totally changed everything. And if you see my mom, I had to tell her who I met. And that was a very scary moment in my life because I wasn't sure if she was going to accept him. And it took a lot of proving on his part. We tried very hard not to be together because I had a very narrow worldview. Only Yupik people were in this world. So everything was Yupik this, Yupik that. Yupik people do this. And from watching the TV and the media, I had a negative view of black people. So just imagine what it was for us to introduce him to our family. So from there, we had to decide if we were going to be together, what our journey was going to be. And we agreed that we were going to teach our language to our children and keep our culture because he had lost his. So he understood how it was to have lost their language and culture. So from there, from our agreement, we then were able to work together and teach our children the Yugtun language. But then as we went on our journey, as a Yugtun person, my worldview was very narrow. So if anybody told me to jump administration, I would have jumped. If they told me to turn around, I'd turn around. And one time after our meetings, I went home and I told my husband that as a teacher, this is what I was told to do. And then he said, just because it's normal doesn't make it right. And as Indigenous people were told so much, with our values. We're taught to respect our teachers. We're taught to respect administration or whoever's in charge. So that is what I did. And I couldn't understand why he said that. And because I couldn't understand, I said, well, that is what I was taught. I need to listen to our administrators or people who are above us. And then when I couldn't understand that, he said, do you know the story about Rosa Parks? And that's when it finally clicked that just because it's normal doesn't make it right. So from then on, I started talking more with elders and my dad to help navigate what we could do proactively, not in a negative way, not in an angry way. So we've worked hard to do that, and that's how our journey continued on, and we continue to maintain that. And the reason why we taught my language, Yugtun language and culture, was for my parents, because if my children had to learn things that I didn't know, they had to know how to communicate with them. But at first, when we first started, my husband and her, they couldn't understand each other. He would speak English, she would respond in Yugtun. But then later on, she started realizing the difference, so they started communicating. And one of the things that I'm very grateful about is we go home to Toksook every year, so they could learn from the elders and our community. And because they're able to speak Yugtun, they can go back and forth, they can transition back and forth easier between village and the urban life. So from there, we continued our journey, and Piiyuuk will share what our journey has been from Bethel to here. Yeah.
Okay, so I moved from Bethel. Our family moved from Bethel in 2010, and I was a junior in high school. I moved from Bethel, which is a community where it's safe to be Yupik. It's safe to be who you are. You are taught by elders. You're surrounded by language every day. You go to the store, you hear it. You're told, you're told every day that people are proud of you because you're Yupik, because we are one people. It's such a great, safe place for me. And it had taught me to be very proud of who I am. I'm Yupik, but I'm also Dungupak, black, from my dad. It was such a very, very great place for me to be me. And then in 2010, my world changed. Living in Bethel, I only had one idea of the world. The world is such a safe place. The world is such a happy place. The world is safe for you to be who you are. The world is safe for you to express yourself. And then I went to high school, and I got lost so many times. Good thing I had my sister there with me. Like she's 2 years younger than me, but we look like twins. But she's 2 years younger than me. She's Kangrilnguq. She's over there. I am her. But I remember going there, and before even school started, I tried out for the volleyball team, and I made the varsity team. And we went around and talked, we did like an icebreaker game, and they said, you have to say something that starts with the beginning letter of your name, and then your name after. So this whole time I've been going by Piiyuuk, and so everyone was like, hi, I'm Elephant Erica, or Aunt Anastasia. I was like, I'm Pineapple Piiyuuk. And they couldn't understand. Pineapple is a P, Piiyuuk is a B. So they were telling me, no, that breaks the rule. Piiyuuk doesn't start with the P, and we had this really great big argument about my name. And then we started talking about, who we are. I'm Piiyuuk, but there's more to me than just my name. My name has really great meaning. I mean, it would take me a long time for me to explain to you what my name means and where it comes from, but in the moment, I told him where I'm from. I said, Piiyuuk nunakaw yakmingunga, Anguyaluk Kangrilnguq Toksook Bay. My name is Piiyuuk. I'm the granddaughter of Chief Dr. Paul John and Martina John of Toksook Bay. And they were in shock. They told me, don't you know all Native people are drunks? Don't you know it's not cool to be Native? How dare you say that? And then I was so upset. I was so upset. But my grandfather taught me pride. He taught me to be proud of who I am. I'm sorry, it's been 1 year since he's had his heart attack, so it's first year. But he told me, no matter how much you try, you can never take away the Yupikness of you. You're always going to be Piiyuuk. You're always going to be Yupik. You're always going to be Black. That's you. You come from a great family. And so throughout the years, throughout that year, I had a hard time of explaining to my teammates of, the view that they have from the media. That's not Native. That's just, a problem that's happening amongst all people. It's not our culture. And so as the years went on with great support from my parents, as you can see in the pictures, on the bottom left side, there's a picture of me and my team. And then in the middle, there's a picture of, on the bottom middle, there's a picture of me and my little sister, younger sister doing Indian stick pull. And on the bottom right, there's my brother playing football. Everywhere we went, Yugtun is the way that we cheered. We always hear, Ampi Piiyuuk, Ampi Aknakuluk Taksakunak, Ampi Kiki, Ampi Lak! Kiki Atukluku! Take the ball away. Hurry up. Don't stop. But, those little things, my parents taught me to not stop cheering in Yugtun, to not stop showing everyone our culture, to not stop loving the people who don't know. It is because they say these things because they don't know, because they were taught in the wrong way. They weren't taught the true meaning of what it is to be Native. They don't know. So through love and compassion, we taught them, and while we were cheering, we were telling them, we are here. We are Yugtun, we are here, we are alive, we are proud. We are great people. And then from there, I made a lot of different friends throughout high school and all the other sports that I did and all my other classes. And there were a few people who wanted to learn. They had these ideas of, what our culture was based off, the media and how, it's not really portrayed that well, but we had a lot of people who were interested, and so we would invite them over to our house. We'd invite them to come eat with us. I remember if my friends were wanting to speak English in the house, they'd have to whisper, because it was a Yugtun-only house. With an exception of my dad, but he can speak Yugtun too. So, but stuff like that for them to learn. And at the end of the year, my teammates came up to me and they said, "Oh my gosh, how racist of me, how arrogant of me to belittle your culture. That is so beautiful. Come from a very proud family, very great." I just want to thank my parents and my grandparents and my aunts and my uncles and my cousins, my whole village, everybody. Because it took them to bring me back up, to bring me to where I am today. And just thank you, Kuya Nachaknak from in here, for showing me love and teaching me how to love everybody who doesn't understand. And one last thing, when it came time to celebrate, when we celebrate, we love to celebrate. We love to yurak, we love to dance, we love to eat. Yes, so when I graduated from high school, there were some teachers that, really didn't want me to graduate because of where I came from. And it's kind of surprising to think that an educator wouldn't want you to succeed. But we got past that. But once I graduated from high school, it felt so great. And I remember they called my name, Piiyuuk Olivia Shields, graduate from Ayaprun Elitnaurvik, Immersion school, and there's other stuff. But yeah, and then I hear drums going, and I hear my friends, oh yeah, that's Piiyuuk's family. They're native. Yes, that's them. And I felt so proud.
No, big say. So as you hear, there's a lot of stories that we went through as a biracial family. But I'm always so grateful for those of you that have husbands or partners. They are very important in your lives. And my husband, who I thought I would never be with because I said I'd never marry a black man, I ended up marrying one. And it was all because I saw his heart. I didn't see the color of his skin. I saw what he had in here. And so from there, we had to really prove ourselves. And not only that, with our children, as you can see there, a lot of times they think they're Samoans, or it's always, what are you? I never heard of that until we moved here to Anchorage. So even though my other daughter told me not to share about her, she really believes that she was full Yupik until we moved here. And their dad was half Yupik and half black because he can speak Yupik, some Yupik. And so the first day after school, coming from school, she opened the door without even saying anything. She just said, "Mom, I'm black." She could not believe that. She finally accepted the fact that she was black. And she never realized it, until we moved here. So we always had conversations about difficult conversations, but because we're so used to them, we have the conversations a lot of times. And one time, my daughter's pretty quiet for the most part, but she came back one day and she was very frustrated, and she said, "Mom, I go to pullouts. I have English language specialists that help me. And when I tell people I'm Native, the second question they ask me, so are you in special ed?" So from there, from her telling me that, I work with educators, so we use our frustration or what the challenges that we learn or that we go through, and we say, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to try to make it better so the future generation can have it better? And the other story that I want to share is I could not understand, like when I would go home crying from being a principal at the school where they were at, in the Yupik Immersion school. I would go home, be very frustrated because I didn't want people to talk about me. I would go home and say, "I quit." And my husband would say, "Go ahead and quit. Let your children see you quit. Let another person take over. Let them take over all the work that you have done." And I would say, "I don't want them to." "Then knock it off. Keep going." So from there, I had to learn to really figure out ways to help as, first of all, my children, and then, of course, it led on to the others. And now with the grandchildren, we work on that. It's, as you know, it's not an easy journey. All of you have gotten there, where you just hit a wall and you just want to give up. And for those of you that, go to church or are part of being Christian, I had the hardest time when I would go home because they say that I wear my heart on my sleeve. So I went home that one day and I said, people are talking about me. And so when I said that, my husband said, you know why they're talking about you? Why? Because you're not Jesus. And so it made, those kind of things are things that brought me down to where I am. Because, we don't like being talked about, especially when you're just starting your journey. So I've learned that it's okay when people talk about me, because I'm not perfect. We're not perfect. We're learning. We have to work together as much as we can. And I really appreciate my family for accepting him, because it wasn't an easy thing. But now, especially since he's proven to be one of the very, very special person, my family really, really appreciates him. So going on to the next slide, Dokun Piluko. Oh, Asaktok. That's our dad, our late father. Yeah, so, so as I was sharing with you, a lot of times, about my story, we grew up Catholic, so he towards the end, he talked to us about the parallel between our Yugtun values with what we read in the Bible. So for those of you or those of us that are going through the journey of confusion, we've learned that, going to church and really understanding the word is very important. It settles us. So from there, one of the things that, one of the last videos that our dad shared was Buktatat Kluta, floating together, everybody being as equals. Like right now, we're all sitting on chairs, at tables on chairs. This is how we need to work together. What matters is in here, what our journeys are, things that we can do to work together. And also, he taught us about respect and duklujagak, knowing the names that are related to certain uncles, like Angakbi. Angak is uncle in our language, but we don't go by Uncle Mark, Uncle Simeon, Uncle Ralph. We go by Angakbi, Angangulugi, Anga, Angi. They know who we're talking about. And our oldest sister is Anana Mouse. And there's Anana B, Anana Jori. We don't add the names. And that's part of the respect that our dad taught us. And that's part of Ilakujagak and respecting one another. And knowing what you can do to certain relatives. So, those are the values that he shared with us, and we had to really work on that. And sometimes because, we have adapted to most of his culture, the loud culture. When we go to Toksook, my mom goes, your kids are so loud, it makes my ears ring. So, those are things that we have adapted to. But it's important for us to be able to accept one another and work with one another.
So one of the messages that my grandpa left us here with was this saying, this thing that someone said to him when he was younger, in his crazy days. There is this man, I think it was his uncle, who came up to him and said, and that means if you don't destroy yourself, if you don't break yourself, you will become successful. And, at the time he was young, and the man had told him, one day you're going to be a chief, you're going to be a great leader. And he just laughed. And he thought, he was joking. But his uncle that was talking to him, he didn't giggle or anything. He kept a straight face. Because, he saw his future. But it's only up to him it's up to him to keep his future straight, his road straight. I mean, sometimes you're going to curve a little bit, but looking towards what you're trying to get to. So a message that I want to leave with you is, if you don't destroy yourself, if you don't break yourself, we can get to wherever we want to. If you put your mind to it, you could do it. The only thing standing between you and what you want is you. So that's one thing that he left us with.
So also, the reason why we're sharing the values that we learned from our dad is we realized in order to survive, in order to maintain in this society, there are values that were taught, not just the Yugtun values. All of us are raised with values, no matter where we come from. So we found that we can use that to hold and interconnect with one another. Serenity, empathy, compassion. And we were always reminded, lead from behind. When you're asked to do something, lead from behind. Don't put yourself on a pedestal, but work with other people and not get too confrontational, but do your best to work with people. And all in all, the most important thing is that he always shared with us was gungagun, through love. We can work and mend and fix, improve, unite, heal, and conquer all things through love. And that, I believe, that's the message that we heard as well from the prior speakers. And in conclusion, as part of the journey, as part of our journey, being an educator at the College of Education, what I just shared with you are things that I share with my students. A lot of my students are non-native, and then so we use our example not to make people, have people feel sorry for us, but to find ways to make improvements. To work towards floating together. So that is part of the work that I do as my passion to work towards cultural responsive education. And so that is my passion as of today.
So if I could ask you guys to stand up and join us, if you can. You could stand it where you are, but there is a lot of heavy, hard things that we were talking about, and in the name of Native values, we like to bring stuff back up. So we're gonna dance Kangrilnguq, and so just follow my mom and my Anana mouse. Okay, so the women uyung sorluji, angutit men, you're strong, you're strength, so you flex and do this. I don't know. So you do something like that. So you like tap your heel, and so are you ready? So women uyung sorluji, men you tap your heel and like you move with great strength. Women you move like beach grass. Dashu? Kangrilnguq magutli, Kangrilnguq magutli, ilaji akaka, ukum pichi kachi piugainakchi kachikuk. It's kind of like, you know, the new dab thing. Like, we've been dabbing for years before it happened. Jolly! Akagi gunagalik suka si magutli. Akagi gunagalik suka si magutli. Ilaji akaka. Ukum pichi kachi piugainakchi kachikuk. Woohoo!
Kuyana, I just wanted to recognize our little dad. This is our little dad here. His name is Kangrilnguq. Yeah. And because he did a lot of speaking, I know we were asking him if he wanted to come up here and speak, and he was just really twitching, so we just wanted him to come up. Yeah, Kuyana Jaknak, Kuyana for the opportunity.
They sure brought it home. I'm sure a lot of you could connect to that story. It's always interesting to hear from folks who come from biracial backgrounds. So thank you for making it so personal and for sharing so much of your story and your family's history and teachings with us. So at this time, we're gonna, again, as we have with all of our past keynotes, ask you to spend a few minutes in dialogue. If you could put the slide up. So we've been trying to be adaptive to the questions that we pose to all of you. We're listening closely, as I'm sure all of you are, to each of our speakers. And usually the question presents itself somewhere throughout their presentation. So for this portion, we wanted to ask, what will we do about it? We're trying to create the action, the thing that you can personally commit to in your life, in your work, in your own families, when you leave this summit and go back to your communities. What will we do about it now that we've been brought to this level of awareness of the levels of injustice and inequity that we still face in Alaska? Each of us have the task now to open our eyes a little bit wider and to personally commit to some kind of an action. So if you could spend some time in your small groups, again, it'll probably be about 10 minutes before we move on, so thank you.